welcome to Nautilus TV. I'm Deborah McPherson, web editor at Nautilus International, Maritime Union. And with me today, we have Captain Inger Thorhauge, and he's a Nautilus member and has joined us kindly as part of our Meet Member series. Inger, tell us a little bit about how you got into a maritime career in the first place.
Well, I grew up on the Faroe Islands, which is quite remote, actually, up in the North Sea. So in a way, I think probably the sea was in my DNA, and I felt drawn to that. At the same time, as I also was quite curious, I wanted to see the rest of the world, to move around. And when you grow up in a small society like that, or small islands, you just know that the world is really big around you. And so that's how I kind of started.
And were any of your family at sea?
My dad he was an engineer on a fishing vessel, but it wasn't really the fishing vessels that drew me because, they were just around the islands. I wanted to go somewhere further and just explore kind of thing.
So where did you start off?
So I was a stewardess on a cargo ship to start off with. I was there for a few years, and then I took some university degree. Whilst I was doing that, I went to school, and then I was sailing in my holidays and whenever I had a break and something like that. And then once I was finished with that, I applied as a cadet and came into DFDS, which is quite known to the Brits because it used to sail into Grimsby and all these places. So I was there for my cadetship. And then when I was doing my last year, after I was finished with my Master Mariners, I went on a dredger for about 8 months, which was quite a learning curve, quite interesting. 4 people on board.
Wow.
But very, very nice and very good for me. I felt I learned a lot. And then I worked for DFDS for a few years on the cargo ships, roll on, roll off, and on some of the ferries.
Yeah.
But then I could see all these beautiful cruise ships out, sailing, passing by, and thought, wow, that looks cool. So I applied. I went for the book called Crew for Cruises. Just on the back page, there were all the cruise companies in the back. So I just applied to all of them. And then the first ones to reply were actually Cunard. So that's how I ended up there, really.
And I bet they're very glad of it today. And your cadetship was in Denmark.
Yes, so it's the Danish system is a little bit different than the British system, for example, because it is, you do all your sea time and then you do all the school,
Right.
and then on the academy, and then you go to sea, and then you earn your sea time, and every time you have enough, you just send in your certificate for approval, and then you lift it up in the degrees. So basically, you take all your exams, Master Mariner exams, and then after that, you just collect sea time to get the degrees.
Oh, I see. And what was the impetus for joining the cruise industry?
So I started as a second officer in the cruise industry, and in some ways it's quite different, although to my huge disappointment, I had imagined that I was gonna, join the ship in Singapore or Hong Kong or somewhere really exotic. But my first appointment was that I joined in Copenhagen, where I live, I live just south of Copenhagen. So it's a bit like, okay, that wasn't so worldwide for me at that point, but it was quite a difference. I think, when it comes to the skills and everything and what you can do and what you're capable of doing, that's not the difference. It's more the difference of the environment, that it's so many people compared to what you used to, those kinds of things, and the way of living, really.
Right. Okay. And how long did it take before you progressed to master?
So it took me about 13 years from that I started in the cruise industry, from
Right.
second officer until I was a captain. Yeah.
And what year did you become a captain?
In 2010. Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, was that when you were appointed Cunard's first female captain?
Yes. Yeah. That was
So,
my first appointment.
and so that would have been a fairly good career highlight, I imagine.
It was because, and I started in Cunard, and then as the company merged with other companies and moved around and was with Princess and was with Seabourn and all these things, so it was a bit confusing. And I was on some of the other cruise lines as well. So for me, it was really like coming home, coming back to Cunard, and first captaincy of a Cunard ship was really something for me. It was a huge highlight in my
Yeah.
career. Yeah.
You describe being the first female captain for this cruise company as a bit of a commotion. What did you mean by that?
So I think from my point of view, I think it was more of a, this is a career achievement for me, that now, oh my God, now I made it. I'm now a captain.
Yeah,
I think I hadn't really processed or expected or anticipated how much the commotion was about it and how much interest there was into it, with a lot of press, all the guests, the huge thing about everybody stood in line to meet and meet and greet, and I was just overwhelmed of how many people were actually focused on this. And people came up and said, "Oh, I've seen everything about you, I saw you there." And I was like, I think I wasn't really prepared for that.
right.
Oh, you think you are, but it's such a huge thing that happens because it's so noticeable. You're a female, there aren't that many females and all. I was just like, wow, this was just overwhelming, really. Yeah.
Another aspect to the job that perhaps when you get into a leadership role, you don't
Yes.
anticipate,
Yes.
especially if you're the first.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think, still today, that anticipation, or it has to be taken into consideration when you're moving towards being promoted, because it's much bigger a thing than you think it is, actually.
sure.
Yeah.
So what made you decide you wanted to be a master anyway? I mean,
I think it wasn't like, it wasn't really a conscious choice, to be honest. I think, when I started and I was a second officer, I thought, yes, life is good. I'm just going to see the world. I'm going to have fun, do my watches, all these kinds of things, and just travel around. But I've always been very conscious about how, very dedicated to what I do. And I think, that paid off in the end. Plus the fact that, I traveled around, didn't meet the man of my life, really, to be honest. Um, and the years just went by, and all of a sudden you find yourself being promoted to, safety officer, then chief officer, kind of, and then staff captain. And then it's like, okay, now I'm here, now I can just as well finish it off, kind of. I never kind of, I hadn't, that was never the goal, kind of thing. I wasn't conscious about that. That's what I wanted to do. I just thought, I'm just going to enjoy this, and then, probably go ashore, find.
exactly.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about women in leadership roles at sea? I mean, do you feel that there needs to be more role models, as some people think, or are there more aspects we need to be considering now? That's an old, kind of an old diadem.
I think, I would at any time support women in the role. But I think for me, it's more about equality, rather than the gender. I think that, there should be space for everyone, and everybody should have the same rights and, and can do the same things. May the best man or woman win in the competition of getting there, really. But I think definitely that females at sea have been struggling for a long time. And it's really good to see that finally, over the last 10 years, there's been a huge progress. And you see more and more women in leadership roles, which is really, really great. I think, though, that cruise ships have, in general, and I found, that in general, it's always been very open-minded kind of to gender and equality. So it wasn't like, oh, you can't be here, or I've always felt that it was much more of an open community to say everybody is welcome as long as you can do your job. So it
Right.
wasn't. So I think, but it's really good to see that it's developed more and being more included now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would you say some of the key challenges have been then throughout your career?
Um, Logistics in some ways, uniforms, but also the acceptance. It's almost as if, regardless of how hard you work and how hard you kind of put your effort into it, it was almost like, oh, just going to test you a little bit more. We're just going to check, are you ready? We're not really, and I think many times I experienced that some of my colleagues who were male versus me didn't have that question about whether, oh, we just want to test you again just to see if you were ready. But,
In terms of other highlights, I imagine your recent appointment is one of
yes,
them to the Queen Anne.
absolutely. Yeah.
Tell us a bit more
It
about that.
was such a highlight in my career to take a Cunard Queen out as the captain. Definitely. We don't build that many ships, so to be the one to have been given the opportunity to take Queen Anne out was definitely, that was just it for my career.
What's been involved in the project? Like what have you as the master had to try and oversee?
Um, I mean, there's all the preparation, everything's done. As things move very fast these days. Everything's planned. It's all there. Blah blah blah. Everything is in progress already. For me, it was about to support my team, but also, there were a lot of new people, new to never been doing a new build before. Didn't really know what to expect. So it's a little bit of a guidance, a little bit of guiding them through the whole thing, teaching them, this is what you need to look for. Where is your focus? Don't focus only on that. You need to make sure that this is in order, and kind of having the overview in a way to kind of help them to know what to look for, but also walk around the ship myself, every day just to see and then guide it in the right direction and say, okay, we need to look at this because this doesn't really look as expected. And so it's a
Right.
lot of inspection, walking around and then, yeah, guidance.
And I guess, did you have a lot of input into the crew facilities, the cabin
No,
spaces, or anything
no,
like that? You
no,
didn't have any, they didn't
no.
ask. Ah, okay. But I mean, how are the spaces for crew on these cruise ships in general?
So then I think, I mean, crew are happy. And that's the most important thing is this up to your expectations and all these things? You can always do with more. But it is a ship, and I think when you're a seafarer, regardless of which role you're in, that the space that you're in is confined in a way. You
Right.
don't have, not like at home, you can go out in your garden and all these things, but they do have outdoor spaces. You can always do with more.
Yeah.
Um, but it is also about the size and what is possible. And I
Right.
think I think the ships are good at very good at post that the ship is coming out after the ship has been launched, also to convert some places and say, okay, because sometimes it's just about to see how does this work actually.
Yeah.
It's hard to say how it works when it's only being designed and made. You got to get the users to look at it and kind of go in and say, okay, this doesn't really work. Could we do something about that? And there is quite a large openness to say, okay, what works for you guys? Okay, let's have a look at that. Let's change it so that it works for everyone. So there is a focus on that.
Yeah. So you did have an influence on some elements of the design then.
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, not as a part of the design to begin with, but I think,
The
as we have
tweaks.
been adjusting. Yeah.
Yeah. The tweaks.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I hear you also had an input into, as a woman, into the uniform design. Is that right? Have you helped modify the
Yeah.
flag?
Yes, I was a part of getting the outfit right, and because in all these years, all the uniforms have been male uniforms, so you can only imagine how well dressed you looked as a female in a male uniform. Um, it doesn't always fit so well around a female body. So that was a great experience to actually work with Catherine Sargent,
Oh,
and traveling to London, and then we tried things off, and what do you think about that? And she was so amazing, obviously being a female as well, but she understood the thing about that not everybody is this thin. People have different curves and everything, and that it is important that you feel good. And
yeah.
that was the major point for her, was, that it looks good, but definitely also that you have to feel good being in it and wearing it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But was the uniform designed just for you, or were they looking at the
No,
uniforms for all the
this
female
is
crew?
this is basically just the prime thing. This is just the setting for how the uniforms are going to be rolled out.
Right, it was
Yeah.
across the fleet.
Yes.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So
yeah.
yeah.
So that is one area, another area that you've been influential, it looks like.
Yes. So that's good.
And we've recently heard about various surveys of women at sea, which shows, unfortunately, that the number of women wanting a seafaring career is reducing. And this has come from IMO and WISTA surveys.
Yeah.
Um, if you believe them now, it looks like only 1% of women are now at sea, as opposed to at least 2%. I think the overall figures for women in maritime are higher. And certainly our members, we've got a higher percentage of
Yeah.
female members. But what do you make of those sorts of figures, and the sorts of barriers that obviously still need to be lifted, as it were?
Yeah. I think to be honest, Deborah, I don't think we sell the job well enough sometimes. And I can imagine what could hold women back from actually pursuing that career is really to see, they are weighing up all the things that they have to give up. I have to be away from home. What about kids? What happens when I get the children? Then can I come back? Or how does that work? Do I have to then I have to go and start my second career? How old am I then? Or, I think there's a lot of these things. And I think maybe we should be better at saying, okay, something, actually you can use your career for a lot of things. And, if you go to see, you know, highlight the positives, say, you can see the whole world, you meet a lot of people. What is your aspiration? What do you want to do? And not so focused on that you stand and steer the ship, and not so focused on that part of it, but more about, what can you use it for later? Is it possible? And we don't highlight that well enough. Engineering side is different. We highlight quite well what, engineers can go anywhere, but what about navigators? What can they do? So we
Yeah,
need to kind of maybe lift that up and say, yes, you might take an education as a navigator and go to sea, but look at this, because when you go ashore, these are also things that you could possibly do. Because
I
then
like
it doesn't look so, oh, well, I just have to stop when I get a kid or whatever kind of thing. Yeah.
exactly. And of course, younger people in general who are looking at careers at sea will be concerned about those.
Highlighting that and saying, what happens if you decide that after 10 years, okay, I'm just going to go ashore now. I want to be at home. I want to maybe, dedicate my time to my family or whatever. But what is in for me then?
Yeah,
But the problem is, I think that you have to do all the job yourself. So you have to figure out what can I do? But you won't get the visibility of that until you've done the job, where you can see when you're on board that, oh, he went and did that, and he went. So that's how you learn, where you can go. We need to be better at telling them before that there are alternatives. You can actually do something different if you
right.
decide to be at sea. Hand in hand with promoting the equality and the career path and everything and role models, but you also need to give the alternatives, because I don't think at pre-cadet, cadet, and third officers, I don't think they're really sure of what happens afterwards. What happens if I decide I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life? Have I then wasted a whole education? Or do I need to, what would be smart for me to do maybe while I'm still studying? Could I maybe take a side course so that it could, or self-study or whatever? I think we're not good enough on highlighting the career opportunities.
Right. And that's during the training as well, is that what you're saying? So, or as you
Yeah.
as you progress through your certificates, there needs to be that awareness so that you
Yeah,
understand.
I think I mean that's my opinion. I think if the more visibility they have of, that I can do this, but if I decide I'm not going to sail for the rest of my life, then at least my education is not wasted. I can use it for this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
If
How
I
to
go,
come ashore is a key
yeah,
question that some of our members have also been concerned
because
about.
it's through your career. You read Nautilus, you read some other places, and you see some jobs that are available, and you think, yeah, maybe I could do that, or maybe I could do that. But you also look at some of them and think, oh, I'm not sure if I could. You know, we're not so good at actually showing, which other ways could we go?
The latest MLC amendments, apart from designating seafarers as key workers, they've also paid attention to bullying and harassment and ways to prevent that. But also, now it looks like ships will be mandated to carry sanitary products on board. How do you think that will come across to
I
everyone?
think will be very well received, to be honest. And I think, there's a lot of these things we have talked about. It's sanitary products. It's about, female uniforms versus only male uniforms being available. Although on cruise ships, there is an element of that there is a little bit more of female uniforms due to the fact that there have always been females in the various jobs and everything else. But there's all kinds of things. What about maternity leave? What about, all these kinds of things? And I think it's just important that we get these things actually up and visible, that this is also a part of it. There's also maternity leave you can ask for. We carry all these things. This is also what you can have on board and all these kinds of things, because it's just like you can be a bit, I remember from myself coming up through the ranks that you get a bit pushed sometimes, or under pressure, because you got to find a place where you can go and buy these things.
Yeah.
It's
And
not always that easy. And if you choose to go on cargo ships, you might be well out of the way of anywhere where there's anything where you can go and buy it.
it will be interesting to see what guidance comes out, won't it? Because it's going to
Yes.
be up to the flag states to implement, which,
Yeah.
from the union's point of view, means paying attention to flags of convenience.
Yeah.
Because if you're not on a well-flagged ship, then your rights probably will be less and less likely
Yes.
to be implemented, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh,
Fortunately, yeah.
yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
So, how long have you been a member of Nautilus?
Oh, many years.
Mm.
Um, I can't even remember.
What
I've been
made
a
you
long, long
join?
time. I think for me it was like, so I felt a bit, foreign in Denmark in my own world, because, I was doing cruise ships and, worked abroad and all these things. And then they had no knowledge of whatever was included in my job, and what should be in the contract and all these things. And I thought, I need to find somewhere else where I can join. And I just sent a request into Nautilus and said, is it possible to become a member even though I'm not British? And they were like, yeah, of course you can. Perfect. That was it. Yes.
So, did you join for professional protection or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. But also for me, it was important at that time, they even sent the Nautilus, magazine to my house, in Denmark. So it is about to see what's going on, what's happening, so I can be a part of it. So I understand and I can see and keep myself updated on the things that are happening.
right. So, networking as well as the
Yes.
practical help from
Yeah.
industrial. Yeah.
And also the curiosity about, I always find it very interesting when the magazine comes out, and just to see what's going on, what's happening here. Oh, look at that. And, yeah.
Right. Excellent. And
Yes.
moving to the future, we're all hearing and talking about the green fuels and digital autonomous ships and things. Where do you think the training and safety elements of that for seafarers for the moment? Is that, how is the transition going from the cruise sector point of view? Do you
I
see
think
much of that?
I think actually it's going really, really well. There's a lot of training, there's a lot of focus on it. So, and we're, because, for example, in Cornwall, UK, we're part of the bigger company of Carnival, and we have our training center down in Holland, and you get tailor-made training courses for all these things that are, shore power, all these kinds of things. And you have the the producers who are coming out, the deliverers of like shore power, to show you how this is working, and you get a full detail of how it goes and all these things. So, and with the fuel and everything, there's a lot of focus on it, how to do that, whether you have, closed loop or open loop wash water filters, and all the scrubbers and all these kinds of things, so EGCSs and everything else. So, and I think a lot of it is like, we're reducing all the plastics, we're doing all these kinds of things to try to reduce all the waste and become more sustainable, and we have a huge focus on sustainability policy, which is great. And it's very well received, and training and everything else is very focused on it. So I think we're really on par with the way we should be.
In the cruise industry, you think that you're seeing that being done in a coherent way?
Yes, definitely. And there's a lot of research and so much work going on behind the scenes about how to constantly improve on it in every way and form. So yeah, I think I'm really impressed.
The future, what do you anticipate doing in the rest of your career at the moment?
So right now I'm on Queen Anne, which is the newest ship, obviously, and she's only just a year old, so still time to adjust and still settling in. She's doing well.
As the captain, what is your actual role on board? And do you get to meet the guests as much as what we think in the cruise industry?
We do meet the guests. It obviously, with the ships becoming bigger, it is a little bit reduced in what you participate in. So, I think if you look at, and this is also post-COVID, is a big thing about the visibility, or not visibility, but more interaction. I think prior to COVID, it was a lot. You met them, you welcomed them on board, you had the cocktail parties, you did all these kinds of things. The parties have become reduced now in numbers, and you don't, you don't interact with big groups like you did used to do. Now it's more of your own accord that you walk around the ship and just say hello to people, and in small gatherings rather than bigger ones, which COVID, is kind of responsible for as well. So
Right.
things have changed after COVID completely, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of your kind of daily schedule tasks, what sorts of things do you have to pay attention to for people that might not,
Yeah.
understand that?
So, well, it is, I meet with the senior management nearly daily, or we talk daily, and we have meetings on a regular basis. And then it's just a walk around the house really to see what's going on and what's happening, preparations for I work a lot with the navigators, the guys on the bridge, to prepare for the departure, arrivals, next port, where, all these kinds of things. So there's a lot of that going on. Obviously, there is also time to go and sit and talk to a guest and have coffee and, meet around and all these things. So I do that. I walk around in crew areas as well. So it's the day is full, really.
How important is mentoring? How important has it been to you and for you to pass on? Is
Yeah,
that
it's a huge part of the job. It is, I would say that you do mentoring, nearly, I don't know, 60, 70% of your day is mentoring, really.
right? Oh, thank you. Thanks, Inga, for those insights. That's really great. And I'm sure all our members will be really thrilled to hear what you've had to say about your career so far.
Thank you so much, Deborah. It's been a pleasure to be here.